Today I'm here with a very special guest, which I met over at Raise Fest, and he is a person who is redefining the real estate game in terms of purpose-driven development and leaving an impact on the real world and doing everything through I would say, Christ-centered approach, which is something that I truly, truly admire. So his name is Greg Robeson, and he is the CIO of a company at Harmony Homes. So Greg, just
Yeah,
feel free to give us a quick introduction of who you are and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
sure. Yeah, you nailed it. Good introduction, Zeus. Thanks for the privilege of being here. And I am a father. That's my main job. People ask me all the time, "What do you do?" I say, "Well, I'm a stay-at-home dad. That's what I do." And and everything else is secondary. So I love my wife and my kids. And maybe that sounds trite, but man, in today's world, we need more of that. We need real men who stay. And then everything else is secondary, and that's real estate. So I had started a state liquidation furniture company, sold that, rolled that into buying an RV, took my kids on the road, and the five of us, I have five children and my wife, the seven of us lived in an RV for 4 years full time, traveled the country. I had begun real estate in 2012 and diversified into multiple platforms, was managing that passively while traveling. Got into STRs, Airbnb, vacation rentals, and while we were traveling the country, what we encountered was it was really great for everybody. But for me, on a real estate level, what we encountered was diversity and kind of a national landscape. What is hot in real estate in different markets? What's working? What's not? And we realized that initially what drew me to senior living as a vertical in real estate was margins. It was, you're doing business. You're studying what has the highest return. Let's look at a 10-year analysis. How are we aging? Where are we at as a country? What's the greatest demand in this sector? Because what do I want to do as a businessman? I want to put in the least time so I can keep the most time for my family and get the greatest return for my time. Right? That's everybody. I mean, everyone has different language for the same thing. We want the most return for our time. Willing to work hard, but I want to be in the right sector. Well, what's the right sector? 10-year study showed there's nothing that's going to compete with senior living. Just business. Let's just talk business, right? We're in a 10-year study, we're 150% upside down in buildings. That means the number of people who need a place to live and versus the buildings that we have that they can live in. 150% shortage
Crazy. That's
just in
amazing.
the buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all over the country, and I'm looking at these centers, and I'm interviewing resort owners, because where am I going to diversify? RV resort owners, we're living in an RV. Senior living, same thing. I have family in them, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, these places smell like human waste. And this is unacceptable. And if you've ever been in one of these centers, like this is what people
Yeah.
experience, And I was like, this is awful. And so my business sense was drawn to the margin. My ministry sense, because I did over a decade of nonprofit work, building youth programs and working with young adult training and leadership and schools, and so that was another part of my past. Those two kind of converged. That nonprofit pastoral heart merged with this real estate, and God was like, "You got to do something here." And that's what brought me to Harmony Homes. I met several other partners who were on the same wavelength, had the same core values. That's how this current project was born, out of that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, that is perfect. Thank you so much. And that is great. I love the fact that you're blending in this nonprofit approach while also still being a businessman, while also still incorporating the father aspect, because at the end of the day, it's like family is everything, and we want to
Yeah,
have the most time to dedicate towards our loved ones at the end of the day. So that's
yeah,
great. That's
you got it.
Yeah, which it does lead me on to my next question, which is how has being a father and family man influenced your real estate vision and your legacy?
How has it influenced my vision? Well, I was just at a capital raisers conference just a couple of days during Holy Week, and I was asked to speak on a topic that in front of 50 other capital raisers. So there's a lot of money in the room. And they were saying that I was asked to speak on something that would bring value to every other company. And something innovative, a lesson we've learned building this company. And you know what I chose to speak on was how integrity is the new alpha, that it drives leadership and it attracts capital. Integrity is the alpha that drives corporate change and attracts money naturally. That's what I presented on. Well, that means that ultimately, I've got to get my house in order. If what I do here is a mess and it's a train wreck as a dad and as a father, as a husband, it's pretty naive to think that I can be a train wreck here and then come and be a CEO or CIO or whatever, an executive in a company and spout off high-minded ideals about core values and expect people to fall in line. People know people. We respond to people. So if I don't have integrity, if I don't have self-mastery and discipline, then what am I bringing to the workplace? It's people know a phony and they know authentic. So today, what's really valued is sincerity. Are you sincere? Well, that's not enough. It's not enough to be sincere. You got to be authentic. That means the real deal. So just think about what makes a company successful? What drives profit? I was recently at one of our competitors, someone else doing senior living in this part of the Midwest, and I went up to the entry-level employees. We were doing our due diligence, research and partnering and all this kind of thing. And I went to someone in food service, and I went to someone in housekeeping, and I said, "Do you like working here? This is a senior living. This is a big box facility, which we can talk more about that if you want. It's different than what we're building, I was really impressed. They said, the CEO walks around, he picks up trash. He talks to the residents. And if I need to call in because my kid is sick, I know they have my back. They value family and they value me. They have found a way for me to work here doing what I enjoy the most. You couldn't get me to leave here, And so I was struck with the culture that this man, the CEO, had built and the synergy. That's a great story. To be able to build a company where you lead in a way that builds culture, that attracts people, drives change, and makes it easy for investors to come alongside you because they can see that you are building a business from a personal framework that's addressing a human need. So you're addressing the needs in your own home, and then you're taking that ideology, you're building a good business. What's a good business? A good business is one that looks at the culture and identifies a need and builds a business to solve that problem. Well, you can't do that if your personal life's a mess, right? You can't build a culture where everybody wants to be around you. Everyone wants to be like you. Everyone wants to work for you, and that you couldn't possibly steal one of my employees unless you are magnanimous and not just an idealist, but a culture driver. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to do that with your IQ or your creativity or your education? Is my master's degree going to be sufficient for me to run a company that's magnanimous and attractive? Of course not. I've got to do something more than that. I've got to bring my A game. That's how I build a culture. And so I do that by being the best father I can, by learning the lessons from my kids in this house, that I'm in right now. That I got to bring what I've sharpened here. I have to train as a dad and as a husband. Train like a military, like in the gym. You were talking about working out this morning. I got to train, man, my character and bring that to the board meeting. Bring that as a partner. Now I'm in a position to be an executive.
That's amazing. That's so amazing, Greg. I live by this quote that says, "How you do anything is how you do everything." So the fact that you just mentioned that, and that what you do at home carries on to the business world as a CEO and all this, these big changes that you're trying to do. It's really, really amazing. And I find it so inspiring. So, Yeah, I do agree completely on authenticity, integrity, and everything that you mentioned. So when it comes to, let's say, raising capital from these investors, high net worth individuals, family offices, and being your most authentic self, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you could give me, you could give our listeners, or just something that
Sure.
you personally do when it comes to raising
Yeah.
capital? Hmm.
Yeah, no problem. Don't sell. Don't pitch. I have a pitch deck, but my vision sells itself. What I've learned in raising capital is that people are looking for more than returns.
Right.
They're not, it's pretty easy when you get into the capital raising landscape to find really good deals. Just in the last 48 hours, I was presented with an annual return of 37.8% for 6 months.
Right.
Super short hold time, 38% in 6 months. 500,000 minimum. Okay, that's attractive. And I see these kind of deals in the 20% range all the time. So it's not hard to find good competitive returns. If you have a lot of money, if you're a high net worth individual, if you're running an office, whatever the lands, those are out there. What I've learned is that these folks are looking for more than good returns. That's important. We're doing our due diligence. How is this project going to work? Supply and demand. Let's do a case study here. That's happening for sure. But alongside that is another vertical. What impact is this company making?
Yeah.
I'm running into pent up money in the country right now, pent up as in undeployed capital, that's waiting for projects run by people who are difference makers, where the company is clearly returning well, organized well, run well, but also is plugged into the human dimension, that they are making an impact in a serious. The money is waiting for companies to do what we're doing. So don't sell out for margins, and don't quit, and don't sell. If you're doing what we're talking about on this show, you don't have to pitch. I mean, like, if I get pitched something, I don't know if you're like me, Zeus, then if somebody pitches something to you, don't you kind of smell it? Aren't you kind of like, oh gosh, we're on the hook. We're in the hook part of the story. Oh, here comes the sell. Anybody who's been in the water knows. I mean, we know how the swim goes. You know what I mean? So why pitch? Just be real. Tell people the problem. Tell people your vision of the solution, and do it from a framework of authenticity. Because when you speak with passion and zeal to a problem that people can relate to, and it comes from in here, not from some articulated teleprompter, when it comes from in here, people know that. It can't be Chat GPT. It can't be a teleprompter. It can't be notes that you rehearsed 3 times for the talk or the presentation. It can't be, because people see through that. The deep pocket is looking for an authentic, real response that they can see in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years is going to create impact. And that's a legacy these deep pockets can hand on to the next generation. I'm not just handing you an STR portfolio. Here's your single family homes. Here's your storage units. Here's your money market. Here's a portfolio that's rooted in impact. You now are inheriting something that's it's going to be financially secure, but it's also difference making. Please continue my legacy of difference making. This is what we're offering investors, is that kind of opportunity to partner with a company who gets it, so we can strengthen your portfolio to become difference makers in your city. That makes sense.
Yes.
So that's what I would say. Don't pitch. Build something that's real and authentic, and then be the kind of leader, man or woman, be that kind of person who can present it through authenticity, and it sells itself. You don't need to sell anything, right?
Agreed. Your vision should sell itself, and I completely agree. I love that answer, and everything you just said. It's perfect. I can't find a better answer than that. So it is really important, obviously, to leave a legacy. I feel like a lot of these investors, besides the returns and the profitability, they are really looking to leave a legacy because at the end of the day, it's like what's going to live on once they pass away. It's their legacy and what they left behind in this world. So that's amazing. And Greg, I want to ask you, did you always have this vision of like leaving a legacy and being purpose driven, or was it something that your faith inspired you to do, or was it a recent change?
Yeah, long time. So many years of nonprofit ministry work, and so that's where that comes from. Definitely comes from my faith. I think early on I saw public speakers or authors or what I viewed as difference makers, and it started by copying them. Ooh, I could do that. I could that they look influential. I want to be influential. So it started through what I call one of my own personal phrases is authenticate, don't duplicate. But I started through
I like that.
duplication. I
I like that.
started by looking to my left and my right and going, I kind of want to be like that person on stage. And it was through that process and prayer, like I'm a Christian and my faith is the center of who I am. God showed me how to be authentic. And so that question came to the surface very quickly. What is your legacy? It's memento mori. Remember your death. Like one day
Yeah.
you're going to be gone. And what, so I try to think about that. What if I was gone today? We don't know how many days we have. What would my kids say? What would be spoken at the funeral? How long would I be remembered? What did I instill that lasted? What
Right.
did I make a difference?
Right.
That kind of a thing. And so in I guess maybe 20 years ago, that became the center of the way I think and the way I live. And then as I got into business and left ministry full time, now the ministry that I do is I just do it pro bono. I just do it because it needs to be done, and I'm not looking to I don't want to be a professional Christian. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just trying to do good business, and that really has come in. It's been a nice injection, I guess, into the business world. Is that gift from my ministry days? So yeah, thanks for asking. Great, you asked great questions.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And so when it comes to, I would say, being faith driven, purpose driven in all your projects that you do, how are you able to balance your profitability while still being like purpose driven and like, balancing both? It's something that I want to learn for sure, like once I get more traction, obviously in the future.
Sure. Yeah. You have to work equally hard at both. So what I encounter a lot is businessmen who are bean counters, businesswomen who are great executives and great leaders, but then on the personal side, there's not as much hard work going on, or the other way around. You run into a lot of ideological pie in the sky. I don't know, ministers at heart, or they're so focused on the social change that they can incite and carry, but they don't have the business administration side. So we have to have both tracks running. You need to build a team that can do both, and they're not mutually exclusive. Like, so one should build the other. If you have an integrity, well, then you're going to balance a checkbook. Your P&L is going to be clean. Your investments are going to be clean. Your expenditures are going to be based in stewardship. You see how they. So if I raise investor dollars and then our company spends it, I immediately should be conscientious. This isn't my money. These people gave us this money. Yes, for a return, but because they also want that impact. Is this money that our company is choosing to spend, is this an investment in that impact? You see how they both go. You can't be willy-nilly. So I don't have a business degree. I'm a pre-med undergrad and I have a pastoral theology graduate degree. So I need my CPA. I need and my accountants. There's a complementarity. So the business-minded folks, or maybe that are more trained in that area, they help I call it BAM, business as ministry. When people are focused on human need, there's a certain framework. You're like, are we aligning with that need? And at the same time, there needs to be that other engine firing. What's that going to cost? What's the risk? Those there's a complementarity there. Why do you do risk assessment in a merger or an acquisition? Why do that? Because your core value at the base is driving that. We want to be the biggest, the best machine to meet the human need. Should we merge with this company? What's the core value? Okay, let's look at the numbers. You see how they work together. So it takes a good team. No one person is going to do everything. So that team dynamic is important to look at the leadership, everyone's unique ability, and who are the players that we need at the table to accomplish this mission. What's the skill set, the core, most critical skills we need at this executive level to accomplish what we want to do? And what am I good at? How did God make me unique? I really believe Zeus has a skill he can do unlike anyone else. So who does Zeus need alongside him to accomplish that vision in the best way? So that both of those sides of the company, I guess you'd say, can complement each other.
Right. That's amazing. So, yeah, for me, I would say I do rely a lot on core values. One of my biggest core values, and one of the reasons that I'm doing everything I do, is to inspire. Just being an inspiration, that's one of the things that I want to leave in this world, that the fact that I was able to inspire so much other people, so much other kids, so much kids from, coming from all these different backgrounds. That's one of the biggest things. And you mentioned core values within your business. So what are some of the core values that you yourself hold when it comes to business, and how do you exemplify those within real estate and everything you do?
Sure. Well, it boils down to virtue. One of the greatest ways for Christians and Jews, for that matter, and Muslims, when you think about it, people who are serious about the invisible part, the things that you cannot see and prove, and then one way to discuss that with a world that is so anti-God or anti-religion is virtue, and so it's really prudent to build a company based on natural law, based on virtues, good habits. It's a good habit. Like you mentioned, you got up early this morning and you hit the gym. See, that's a good habit. Regardless of whether you're using some of that time for prayer, you're ordering your day. There's discipline. Your hunger isn't the thing driving you. Your base drives aren't driving you. And why is that good? Why is it good to build a company on the basis of virtue? Because otherwise, the thing that steers the company is vice. It's things like greed and passions and what I want. It becomes, and if you're honest about who you are and you know your weaknesses, you don't have to understand original sin, and you don't have to understand Judeo-Christian ethics to get it. If you really are honest about yourself, then you're pretty weak. You're good at some stuff, but I don't trust myself. So I better have a business that's rooted in virtue, in good habits. Now, the specific good habits, like ours, are specific to senior living. We're building a company that helps seniors to sell all their stuff when they don't need it and pay for their care, sell their house and all their big assets and use that money to pay for their care, and then placement. So that's a big operation. So for our operations and our mission, we build good habits, virtues around that, so that the thing driving our machine isn't vice, but it boils down to self-mastery, self-discipline, integrity at the core. You can't be saying one thing and doing another. The senior space, the real estate space in general, is predatory. So that means that sector draws a lot of people who don't seek people over profit. They invert that. That's vice, right? Yeah. So, and everybody knows that. So when someone goes to think about how it feels, let's say you had to sell your house. Ooh, do you know a good agent? What do you mean by that? It means honest. It means, are they really going to work for you? Or are they just chasing 6%? Are they actually going to help you with an effective strategy get the most out of your asset? And for seniors, this is an asset that's been in their house for generations sometimes.
That's
So
right.
it's more than just getting the most return, they're connected to it. And so being sensitive to that is a real thing. So you can see that the senior space is particularly predatory. I mentioned that real estate can draw users. Well, seniors are particularly vulnerable. So what do predators look for? In the financial market as well as everywhere else? They look for the most vulnerable. That's seniors. And often seniors are selling a house, there's a predatory moment, and they have an overwhelming number of needs. There you go again. And so why would seniors be defensive in their golden years when it's time for transition? Why would they be suspicious of a company? Because too many stories of real estate agents, brokers, estate liquidators, so forth and so on, stepping into that space and using their vulnerability. I don't blame them. And so we're stepping into a spot of vulnerability to be humble and to meet that with those virtues. These seniors need to be able to see that we mean what we say what we mean, and that we're there for them. We're one hand to hold. Here you go, take my hand. We understand all the vulnerability, and we're going to meet all those needs, all of them. We've built these companies in sensitivity to, we've intuited those needs in our culture, and we're here. We're not going anywhere. Here's our financials. Here's everything. Just open book. We're here to serve you. Every need you have. You see what I mean? You see how you build virtue around the need, and that's a beautiful way for a Christian like me to bring his faith into it without becoming religious and setting off, because in an anti-God culture, religious language sets off alarms. It sets off red flags, right? People are defensive, right? But if you talk about virtue and you talk about meeting human needs, well, everybody can get behind that. And they're complementary.
Agreed. That's a great answer. Oh my God, that's crazy. That is tremendously great. Thank you, Greg, for that.
You're
And
welcome.
yes, you talked a lot about self-mastery and self-discipline, having the right, I would say, structure in your life systems. How were you able to develop that? Because I know countless individuals who are struggling with self-mastery and how to get themselves right in the first place before going out to, raise capital, develop relationships, get into business and whatnot. So do you have any pieces of advice for our listeners, or just how were you able to develop that?
Well, there's two tracks. One is natural and one is supernatural. So if you want to go alone, if you want to go on this path of self-mastery without the one who made you, good luck, because you're bootstrapping all the time. What you'll end up doing is looking for the newest system, the newest program, the newest book, and you'll jump from program to program aimed at overcoming a vice, getting a certain part of your disordered life into order, and you're relying on your own strength. And human beings are resilient, so that's super tempting because we learn, we adapt, we grow, we're amazing. Like, we're an amazing creation. But there's the tagline, we're created. Now, if you want to go on another track that produces actually more fruit and more joy and more productivity and more efficiency and lots of measurable metrics that are attractive to the business market, try doing it with faith. Because now you have access to an invisible source for self-mastery. Now we have access to the one who made us, and we can pray for it. We can ask God for help with that. So that is my secret sauce, is my faith. I can't do anything without him. And whether I recognize that fact or not doesn't change the reality. Whether I recognize that driving my car off a bridge is going to end my life or not doesn't change the fact that it will. And so this is a fact. This is a fact of life. People that pray and are in touch with the God who made them are happier. Just data driven. This is data driven. Okay, they are more efficient. They're more productive, and self mastery. My yoke is easy and my burden is light, the Lord says. So it comes easier. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's just that we are getting strength from someplace other than ourselves.
Right.
So if you haven't quite, some folks have to get to the bottom. They have to get to the bottom and realize they just can't do it themselves. They got to crack before they turn and go, well, maybe there is a God.
Hmm.
Maybe he could help me with this. So there's two approaches. One doesn't work, and it leads to extraordinarily limited results. And one does. And you can see when companies build around, I said BAM earlier, like you can tell a difference between executives who build around their own humility and they know they can only do so much and that they need God, and ones that don't. It doesn't matter the size of the company. It doesn't matter. If you've got a company or a branch of a company where people love to be there, there's a God-fearing person involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've caught on to the fact that something has to happen beyond them.
Yeah.
So, to me, the answer is faith. There's no other way to achieve self-mastery.
That's great. That's so great, Greg. And has there ever been a moment where I would say there has ever been a doubt in your faith, or like you've struggled to maintain that faith, maintain just having that vision? Because for me, there's been a few moments in my past where I'm like, shoot, like this is a really difficult moment. And it was just hard to maintain that faith and maintain that relationship with God. So how, I'm asking if there's ever a moment that you struggled with your faith, and what did you do to overcome that struggle and then obviously keep on going to the point where you are now?
Sure, yeah, 100%. Well, the trials of life. When I was a
Yes.
teenager, my father died when I was 15,
Wow.
and I barely knew who I was, and
Right.
that's a heck of a trial for a teenager. So now my mom's raising four kids by herself. That was a moment where I was like, pretty, pretty mad with God, and so that was a trial I would have said I wasn't ready for, but I think looking back on it, it's something that God used to sharpen me. We can do hard things. And if life is always easy, then we're going to be pretty tempted to think that we're in control.
Mm.
So this was a learning moment. It was a growing moment for me. And then later in life, I lost my mom and then my brother, and I'm the youngest. So these you often hear people talk about moments of loss, and I can now see that God used these moments of loss in my life to peel back my self-reliance. Or, for people who've lost both parents, it's a little easier to fall to the illusion that you're still in control because everything's provided for you, or there's a security net. There's this concept of where you came from that maybe doesn't have anything to do with God. When both your parents are gone, you're on your own. And it's a little sobering, and you can get to this point of, you know what, I actually came from God. He was the master of all this, and I don't need my parents anymore. So these moments of loss were tremendous hot pots. They were these galvanizing moments where I'm either going to start doing drugs to deal with the pain, or find some other illicit way of numbing myself, or I'm going to get my act together and start living like my faith is the most important thing. You kind of go one way or the other, and I'm very grateful. We're all born to die, but I'm grateful for these moments and the way that God used them to deepen me. Things like patience, persistence, some of the virtues we've talked about in this show. You think you're patient until you suffer loss. Just think of any virtue. It's a test. It changes the way you think. If you have everything handed to you and you always have what you want, and you're always full and satisfied, how could you say you have patience?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? You have to do without. You have to suffer loss. You have to want and not get to grow in patience. And so these losses, this is just one virtue, patience, right? This is just an example of how these losses were moments of growing in these virtues, galvanizing, deepening me, making me a more effective tool. Because of my parenting and my corporate leadership, the way I hire and fire and train and raise people up is all based on me and my ability, and I'm not deepened and sharpened. I don't take the trials that come as an invitation from the one who made me to go deeper. Then I'm a pretty shallow leader. I'm a pretty ineffective leader. So I definitely had my moments where I was shaking my fist at God, but I just prayed my way through it, and then I was able to see how He, like we just celebrated Easter.
Right.
We're in the 40 days of that right now, and how He took the worst. Our Lord took the absolute worst and made it into something redeeming. Like He changed everything. So now, when I am in those dark places, suffering loss, and eventually my own death, hopefully many years of service from now, I can approach those differently, knowing that He's changed the game. He has turned what would be utter chaos and absurdity into the greatest storehouse of treasure for the development of the human person. Now I'm entering in this place which used to be darkness, and it's a spot where I become the best version of myself. Wow.
That's amazing. That's great. Oh my goodness. Yes, thank you. That was a perfect answer. And here, Greg, let me ask you this. For older individuals who are struggling with their faith, what would you say to them?
Start now.
Mm-hmm.
I know many, I run men's groups, and I do a lot of leadership development, mentoring, and training. And I can't tell you how many times somebody older than me has said, I wish I would have met you or known what I know now 10 years ago, 20 years ago. My kids are grown, or whatever. I can't tell you how many people I see who look at the suffering that their family is enduring, and they can see that they were part of it through their own lack. It's a sobering moment where you go, dang, I drank too much. Holy cow. My kid has lost their faith. My grandkid is in jail. Whatever, fill in the blank.
Yes.
And they're taking an honest look at their lives. If I woulda and coulda and shoulda to death, well, you're alive today and you're alert today for a reason. You see the lack now. You didn't before. What are you going to do?
Start now.
We don't have the past.
Yeah.
We don't have tomorrow. We have right now.
Yeah.
So that means take all that regret, pray about it, and ask God to channel it into motivation so that you can act as if today is all you've got, because that's sane. That's sanity. If we can behave as if today is all we have, then all that energy that's pent up in being mad at myself for what I didn't do with my kids or my grandkids can be transformed into zeal to do everything I can today. You see, my worry about the future and my regret about the past both come from both directions into right now. And now I am the most effective grandfather or dad or executive or employee because I've let go of those hooks and I've asked God to transform them into supernatural power so that today can be different. That's what I would say.
That's amazing. I love that answer, Greg. That was so amazing. I'm at a loss of words. That's great. That really spoke to me. A lot of times I feel a lot of regret about the past, and I feel a lot of anxiety about the future. But like you said, if you're able to channel both that energy from God, and then let go of your fears, let go of the past, and just be present in the future, in the present, in whatever role that you're doing, whether it be being the best businessman, being a student, in whatever that you're doing, you're gonna achieve success for sure. So that's great.
That's it.
Yeah, that's so.
You nailed
great.
it.
Mm-hmm. Greg, I want to ask you this: like, what hope do you hope to leave in this world for your children to see? Like, when your children look at you, like, what do you imagine them to see? Like, obviously, like, this is when they're older and they can see, like, oh yeah, like, this is my dad, this is what he did. How can you inspire? Yeah, and what legacy do you want to leave on them?
Well, my hope would be hope. That's my hope. That's maybe not what you're thinking, but 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be ready. Oh gosh, am I remembering that one right? Always be ready to give a defense or a reason for your hope, or why you are the way you are. My hope for my children is that they're not storing their hope in me, or that I want my kids to pass me by far. I want to create a fertile ground, the Fertile Crescent, for them to grow, and then use that as a springboard to fly past me in every way, virtue, business, in whatever they're supposed to do. So what's my hope? My hope is that when people ask them, all 5 of them, why they are the way they are, that they can express in some way, with a word or a selfless act, what their hope is, which is in Christ. That they are ready, because I think they are going to continue to live in such a compelling way because of the Fertile Crescent, that they're going to make many people ask them throughout their lives, there's something different about you. You're compelling, you're attractive. What's your secret sauce? And so my hope would be that they would express their hope, and that they're ready first of all, by their own self-mastery and their work, and they're ready to express to anyone they meet what that secret sauce is, that they've got their mind and their heart set on heaven. Like that this is just a second. What we have here, we're going to make it as good as we can. We're going to pour it all out with everything to make earth, our time, a gift. But it's just a blink. And they're detached. I want my kids to be detached. I don't want them chasing illusions. I want them to be here to serve and to be as effective and happy as they can, be joyful witnesses. And then when people ask them, what's your deal? That they're able to, in some way, express to everyone they meet what their real hope is, which isn't a vacation house on the beach. It's not a certain number of homes that I hand them. It's eternal joy. That would be my hope, that they'd be able to articulate that, and that would be authentic. I don't want to raise materialistic, bratty, needy, self-absorbed, self-indulgent, entitled adults, because that's the majority of our population. The majority of the people running around in our world, sadly, are kids who never grew up.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I don't want that for my kids.
Yes.
I want them to be impact returners.
That's so amazing. I love that, Greg. I love that, because my parents, they're both the same way. They hope to, obviously inspire me to become the best version of myself and truly leave an impact on this world. So that's great. Yeah, Greg,
Beautiful.
I want to ask you these last 3 questions, which is, what are the best pieces of advice that you could give to someone in terms of their faith, in terms of their relationships, whether they be a husband, a father, a business partner, whatever, and in real estate and business? So let's cover faith, relationships, and then business. Best pieces of advice.
Well, there'd be one piece of advice that would transcend all 3 of those, and that would be, you get like the people you're with. So if you want to know somebody, look at who they spend time with. Like if you want to look at how they spend their time. So if you really want to know me, then I should keep a log sheet of my hours and minute and time, all right, and show it to you. Honest. That's called transparency. You want to know who I am? Look at how I spend my time. Is it about leisure and satisfying my desires? Or is it about service and loving others? That's going to tell you what kind of person. Also, if you want to know about me, look laterally. Look at who I choose to spend my time with. Because I'm becoming like those people, whether I like it or not. Now, we can't choose our family, but we can choose our business partners. We can choose our friends. So if you want to be more excellent in any of these areas that you just elucidated, Zeus, then that's what you need to do. You need to surround yourself with excellence, because iron sharpens iron. So if you want to be better, how are you going to inspire that yourself with your own limit? You got to go get with people who are ahead of you. You got to spend time in the gym, get with people stronger than you. In your mind, get with people smarter than you, who have read more, who understand more, who've integrated the principles contained in all these books, into their life, and just spend time with them. Wait a second, how did you do that? that was really that trial was no big deal to you. Like it's like it didn't even affect you. What? Tell me more about yourself. Um, so across the board, you got to get with people who are further along, who are more excellent than you, as a business owner or employee, wherever you're at in your work. As a father, same thing. As a husband and father, I want to find people in the country who are inspiring to me. It's hard to measure. How do you measure fatherhood? You're a better dad than me. I want to be. I don't know, but I can be inspired. I can be like that thing, that way of being a dad. I want that. I want to be near you. Let's play cards. Let's get a beer. Let's do something. Let's spend time together, because I admire. And then in the faith, the same way. You got to find people who are more faithful. Take a solid look at that. So if your faith is dry, maybe you go to church because you're supposed to, or this is always the way it's been done. Go find somebody who doesn't check a box in their faith, who's not going through the routines, whatever faith, of fasting or of Ramadan or of getting together as a family at Easter because it's just always been that way. That's not enough. That's insufficient. This is extremely shallow living. And you'll be a shallow leader if that's your whole life. What kind of depth do you think you're going to probe out of people if you're just robotically doing what's always been done?
Yeah.
Get with people who've caught on and who go deep. Get with people who ask great questions. They lead in a way you've never seen before. Find a way to be near them. That's what the greatest leaders have always done. Iron sharpens iron. So I'm answering really kind of all three in one.
That's great. I always say that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So That's amazing, Greg. Thank you. I truly appreciate you for coming on and everything. This advice that you gave, it's going to truly, inspire our audience, and it inspired me a lot. This was just great, Greg. I'm going to have a lot of insights and a lot of self-reflection to do after this, but I truly appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, it was fun. This was fun.
Yes. So, Greg, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and yeah, we'll stay in touch for sure. I appreciate everything, Greg. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Zeus.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Greg.
All right. God bless.